Hello and welcome back to Hoi 4, Equestria at War, the realm of Kiria under Rainshine. In today's episode, we're gonna actually have a full episode where we play the game for the first time in this series. While those living in Vermillion learned almost immediately that the Imperial decrees that created the science have been repealed, there are countless thousands of Kirin living in rural villages who are still unaware that their fortunes are soon to change for the better. Imperial heralds shall venture forth throughout the realm and find every last village to share the matriarch's good news. It will cause a very tiny stability loss, but that is completely fine. They need to know what's going on. A letter from the Premier, Most Divine Matriarch Superior. Today marks a week since you decreed that the Imperial Heralds would fan out across the realm and deliver the news of all Kirin plenum for a national revival to the Kirin of our domain. I'm pleased to report that their decree is proceeding swimmingly, apart from a few hiccups here and there, and your subjects are finally learning that the silence is over. I've already been receiving reports from the envoys in the field that many towns and settlements are taking to the streets with joy and excitement, and I understand their feelings perfectly. You, Matriarch, are blessed with a lifespan that lasts twice as long as the rest of us, thanks to the Concord's divine favor, so time must seem to feel twice as fast. 60 years is hardly half your strengthened lifespan, but an entire generation of Kirin has been born, raised, grown old, and is now passing on in that same time, having only known the science their entire lives. In a century from now, the science will have only been a fraction of your life, while it has come to dominate the lives of all of your subjects. Ending it now and starting a new chapter for the Kirin species fills all of us with joy and excitement at what tomorrow brings. The hardships we are now born into and lived throughout will soon feel like a distant memory now, and that we all together get to shape our destiny. For that you have won the undying love and devotion of your subjects. All your subjects. Maybe not all of them, but most, or a good amount. I don't think I can possibly overstate just how great of a change this will be for all of us. Even still, I know this won't be easy, nor will the future we create for Kiria be what every Kirin desires. Some Kirin want to rapidly modernize us to catch up with the rest of the world, while others are far more cautious, remembering the disastrous modernization under your mother's rule. There will probably be bickering and arguing and fighting, but good things don't come to those who wait. They have to be fought for, and that's what we will be doing at the plenum. With your guidance, I know we can create a bright new future for all Kirin, and I'm thrilled to serve by your side. Let's do this together, and let's do it right. Your devoted servant, Premier Autumnblaze. Now we will begin the 3.5-year plan. We'll unlock the Gallop Onward decisions, and it will help with our horrible legal power. The rapid modernization of Kiria will be a chaotic process that can only be sustained for so long. The Matriarch has proclaimed the Grand Gallop Onward, aiming to fast-track a century's worth of lost progress in 3.5 years. The plenum will have to deftly manage the tremendous transformation of Kirin society and culture if Kiria is to emerge intact from this rough and hasty metamorphosis. The Grand Gallop Onward. Matriarch Superior Rainshine momentarily hesitated as she took to the podium placed on the steps before the Imperial Palace. Her red eyes shifted downwards and scanned over the hundreds, no thousands of faces, stared up at her. She had to remind herself that this was the first time most of her subjects had ever seen her in person. Rarely had she ventured outside the palace walls all her life, and even rarer still had been any occasion to speak to her subjects, or let them speak to her. Her ascension through her mother's funeral pyre had been quiet and closed affair within the palace walls, and only imperial proclamations to the Kirin of Vermillion would have let any know that a change of leadership had taken place 36 years ago. Now she stood before them as their new Matriarch Superior, ready to lead them out of the darkness of the science that had stifled Kirin society for so long. My faithful and loyal subjects, Rainshine began, glancing down at the prepared speech in front of her and then back at the crowd. I know this is the first time most of you have ever seen your matriarch. I know this is the first time you have ever heard my voice, but a new era for Kiria could not begin without allowing you to meet me. I'm not my mother. I'm not the mayor who created the decrees and laws that created what we call today the Silence. I'm not Shusha's charm, but I am her daughter, and today I will begin the atonement for my mother's mistakes. Surprised murmuring passed through the crowd, and Rainshine let the proclamation sink in before continuing. I have set in motion a series of decrees and appointments that will bring about the end of the Silence, she said. Today is the beginning of a new era for Kiria, but I alone cannot forge our future. It is time for all Kirin of the realm to join me in the future we create together. The Kirin people must join me on a grand gallop onwards. A leap that will see us modernize our industry, our technology, our agriculture, and our science. This realm that had been entrusted to us by Concord is blessed by our wisdom and favor. We Kirin are an ingenious people. A people who are intimately familiar with the creative and destructive force of fire. We will use our gifts to make the most of Concord's blessing. Through hard work, grit, and fervent devotion to the fire goddess, the realm of Kiria will emerge from the silence to become a world power within a decade. There is nothing that we cannot accomplish together. So I ask you, Kirin of the realm, will you join me in the grand gallop onward? Thunderous applause, and I'm fist bumping myself because I guess that's how they'd applause. And ecstatic cheering was the crowd's response, seemingly audible across the entirety of the realm. I mean, I guess I've been applauding wrong for every nation because I've been just clapping, but really they should be, like, fist bumping themselves, I guess. The grand gallop onward begins today. Admirization begins the 3.5-year plan. And my only thing for this is completing it, so I'm not gonna do that for a while, probably. I will go ahead and get this, though. Some things do seem better, but I don't know when I'll actually get them. Well, actually, I could get that one, like, immediately, and I kind of want that one more, because I'm going for civilian stuff. So I think I'm going to go for that next, even though I can't actually use it really yet, but I might as well go for it. Alright, there we go. Okay. Well, we've began Reconstruction. The 3.5-year plan. The brainchild of Imperial Premier Autumn Blaze. The 3.5-year plan recognized as a ferociously ambitious course of action, even by its most dedicated proponents. Seeks to make up for a century's worth of lost progress and transform the realm of Kiria into an industrialized nation by the end of the year 1011. The plan is the cornerstone of the all-Kiria plenum for national revival, and a assemblage of Kiria's best and brightest summoned to Vermillion at the behest of Matriarch Superior Rainshine to guide the realm of the Silence into the modern era. Supported by Kiria's friends in Equestria, funded by its wealth of the returning Kirin diaspora, fueled by the resurgent flames of the Kirin patriotism, and driven by the indomitable will of the Kirin people, Premier Autumn Blaze believes that the plan can succeed, but only if the plenum learns to work together, in spite of their ideological differences, towards their shared goal of a strong, independent, modernized Kiria. Alright, I don't know what I want to start with. Ooh, actually, that seems good. Helping agrarian, a research slot seems really nice. Which, doing that, I need to get, okay, I can get that through going here. Alright, oh, this seems necessary. So very necessary. In fact, I might go down to here first just for that. Okay, this seems military. Yes, I'm gonna worry about this later. I'm gonna worry about military after. So yeah, I'm gonna go straight for this because that seems so necessary. So this needs both of these, and this needs one of the following. So because of that, I'll go for this. This needs all the following, which is this, which just needs that, and this, which just needs that. So I'm going for this first. So in that case, I will go ahead and just go for this. Because that'll help with when I do some industrial stuff. The Reform Bureaucracy. The Reform Bureau is a centralized executive body created for the Kiria plenum for national revival and granted a limited amount of imperial mandate by the matriarch herself. It serves as the central governing body of the rapidly changing realm, and it is here that the final drafts of bills are hammered out before being presented to the matriarch superior. Also, I'm gonna get a journal entry, which is interesting. A fire rises in Kiria. The announcement of the 3.5-year plan has been chaotic, to say the least. Not that Autumn hadn't expected it. She certainly had. But she hoped it would be a bit less chaotic than it was now. Now, if the wheels of Grand Gallop Onward officially set in motion, she found herself trying her hardest to stay on top of everything happening all at once. And that, to be quite honest, was an exceptionally difficult task for a mayor who had never entered politics before, being hoof-picked by Rainshine to be the Imperial Premier. One way she had tried to wrap her head around everything that was swiftly transpiring in Vermillion was by inviting local leaders from across the realms to tea. These meetings had been very fruitful, and Autumn felt she knew more about what she was dealing with in the realm because of them. And not only was she getting to understand the Kirin from each province and city better, she was starting to see just what problems had been festering during the stagnation of silence that needed to be addressed. Case in point, an old banner Kirin from Verdant, an elderly mayor whose grandmother before her had served in Matriarch Natalent's Charm Banner Army, and who had seen much of her long life. The silence isn't so bad in Verdant, the mayor said, only partly to Autumn's surprise. The old Kirin generally were familiar and comfortable with the stagnation of the silence, and weren't keen to move out of it. There, the priests and mystics of the Rising Fire found a way to adapt to the city, to the decree of the silence. They're nothing like the Kirin you brought into Vermillion to dictate policies with wealth and prodigy. No, the Rising Fire of Vermillion... The Rising Fire understands the common Kirin, the farmers and fisher Kirin, the poor and uneducated. Some here in Vermillion can call the Rising Fire a heresy, but to the Kirin of Verdant and the poor Kirin everywhere whom they appeal to, the Rising Fire is a salvation, a helping hoof, where the way of fire abandoned them. Remember that, Premier, as you shape the future of a realm in majestic buildings of Vermillion. The Kirin who argue with you on the floor are not the only ones who will live in the future you create. And if push comes to shove, they certainly aren't the most numerous. The success of this Grand Gallop honor will be decided by the governed, not the governing. Remember the poor, or some Kirin else will. The Rising Fire heresy could prove problematic down the line. Yes, it most certainly could. Pirate raids from the Autumn Isle. How dare they? Autumn Blaze skirmed through the last report attached to the Imperial Census of the southern coastline before setting it aside. So far, she had read 15 reports from Imperial administrators who had visited the coastal towns to take stock of the situation along Kira's coastline, and each of them had largely the same, punctuating all the droll figures on population numbers, tax determination, and analysis of the local economy, reports of pirate attacks and raids. Autumn knew that there was a strong pirate presence in Autumn Isles, where an entire armada of pirates operated out of the port of Nakri, and she had been aware that somewhat regularly raided the coastline for goods and bodies to press into service. But the caveat that bothered her in each of these reports was they were apparently getting more frequent and destructive. What had once become an irregular occurrence for these towns was beginning to happen with a concerning amount of regularity. Pirate attacks were surely increasing and growing more organized, and the red sails of the pirate junks had even been spotted prowling off the coast of the great Mulfluve River, searching for ships to prey on, carrying goods out of the Kirin heartland. It was a bold move, given the number of ships that ventured across the waters, and Autumn didn't like that one bit. For now, the pirates were still only raiding small fishing villages and coastal towns, and staying clear of more populated and patrolled locals, but it couldn't be denied that the increasing occurrence of attacks in the wider range the pirates seemed to be patrolling was a bad omen for things to come. If the pirates were going bolder, then it would only be a matter of time before they started attacking more lucrative targets. And with the realm still struggling to pull itself out of the stagnation and decay of the silence, the last thing it needed right now was a series of pirate attacks destabilizing the coastal economy. Something would have to be done to stop the pirates before the problem spiraled out of control, or the consequences would be severe. We cannot afford to let these pirates have free reign of our coastline. Now, that's not a good sign at all. It's a really bad sign, I'd say, really. Reform, reform, reform. I don't know how many times I had to say that during the first meetings of the Reform Bureau. Oh darn, I just did it again. But today was a very busy day. Since the Matriarch Superior made me the Premier of Bluenham, I still don't know why she trusts me with that much responsibility. I was automatically made the head of the Reform Bureau, which is just basically a fancy way of saying I have to be responsible for getting all the influential delegates from Bluenham into one place where we can discuss the specifics of how we want to enact things that get passed on the debate floor. We are essentially the central government of Kiria, and we act with a limited amount of imperial mandate that Rainshine blessed us with. That's a lot of responsibility for a young mayor from Mascot to handle, but I'll do my best to save the realm and not let the Matriarch down. Unfortunately, trying to get every Kirin to work together is like herding cats. I've never had a pet cat before, let alone 2, 3, or 4, so I'm a little short of experience. Fickle Current has brought in a lot of his buddies from overseas, and though the capitalists are providing a lot of capital and ideas need to get this whole modernization thing moving, I felt like I have to stop them from reshaping Kiria to suit their interest over those common Kirin. At least I have somewhat of an ally in Princess Winterfrost, who is wary about how rapid modernization will alter the social fabric of the Kirin species, but I often feel like she goes a little too far. If you try to suggest anything that changes the way of Kirin society function during the silence, she usually just pushes back hard on it. Afraid of how any hint of modernization could possibly weaken the influence of the Way of Fire in our culture. I'd end up playing middle mayor between the two and finding a compromise that helps out every Kirin, but I don't know how much longer I can keep that up if Winter and Fickle don't get on the same page. It's exhausting. Oh, how I wish I had Applejack and Fluttershy here to help show us how to follow the Equestria model of harmony, but I'm not going to give up. Not at all. Even if it's exhausting and draining, I'm going to keep going back into the Bureau and doing my best to move things along for the good of all the realm. Hopefully, as we keep working together, we'll be able to get every Kirin to have fair and honest debates about how we're going to modernize the country. We all have a common goal, after all. It falls on us to figure out how to get it. I'm confident we'll find a way to make that happen. Woo! Okay. Well, good luck with that. The Office of Transmission. Understanding the impossibilities of having every Kirin in the realm venture to Vermillion to share their ideas and complaints with the Matriarch Superior, Matriarch Rainshine has decreed that the Office of Transmission be established to receive letters and appeals from her subjects, and bring them to our immediate attention, so that they may be discussed during gatherings of the plenum. This will help with our losing of weekly stability some, because we're currently losing way too much. A letter of change. As of late, I've spent less time traveling the roads than I have staying in one place and writing letters. It is a queen transition, and one that I'm not used to. I don't know, but it is proving to be more effective, since the transmission office was open to receive petitions from Kirin all across the realm. My followers and I have spent our time writing letters on behalf of the common Kirin and throughout the realm, acting as their representatives to petition the Matriarch Superior through the office. It is a change that benefits the common Kirin more than their leaders at the plenum would believe. The Office of Transmission is designed to serve as a direct interface for the Matriarch to hear from her subjects when they cannot make the journey to Vermillion to petition her in person. But a large portion of our nation is still illiterate, meaning it is useless to them. My fellow mystics and I are all literate by our training and education, so we visit these Kirin, put their complaints and desires onto paper for them, and make sure they are received by the Matriarch herself. This has been a great boon to the commoners, as otherwise they lack the necessary influence to make their voices heard, especially by the leaders of the plenum. Princess Winterfrost is insular and myopic, and sees any Kirin speaking out about how the Way of Fire has failed them as heteric rabble to be ignored. Fickle Current is indifferent. He is a foreign-born and foreign-educated, sees himself above the affiliates and desires of the commoners, viewing them only as tools to be used for his own personal gain. And Premier Autumn Blaze, though well-intentioned and caring, is naive and inexperienced and simply lacks awareness and know-how to address the problems. The harsh realities of modernization are leaving us common Kirin behind, and so some Kirin must serve as their herald and their champion. Just as I've always faithful served Concord, so too shall I serve the poor downtrodden of Kiria. As they realize their voices are being heard and their complaints are being addressed, the common Kirin of the realm will remember who listened to them and who fought in their path, and they will remember that it was the rising fire that saved them, not the way of fire. So we can accept petitions. Throughout the silence, the Vermillion Court had been closed to the Kirin of the realm, and the Kirin who claimed they had seen the Matriarch Superior in the flesh numbered only in the dozens. With the silence ending, Matriarch Superior Rainshine has decided to regularly schedule 70 days of open court, where petitions could see her and make their voices heard. The mere act of seeing Kira's divine ruler and allowing her to hear their problems has greatly restored the faith of our people in the intentions of the matriarch and her belief in the success of the grand gallop onward. Or a reply to the letters. While not every Kirin can venture to Vermillion to see Matriarch Superior Rainshine personally, establishing the Office of Transmission has created a way for concerned Kirin throughout the realm to send letters to the Matriarch Court that are presented to her. In this way, even Kirin of the fringes of our realm can feel like their voices are personally heard by the Matriarch, and in turn, Concord herself. We're gonna focus on keeping our stability up at the moment. We're gonna do some of that. Three Strengths Campaign. The modernization efforts of the plenum have long been championed by the Three Sisters, campaign which promotes harmony, heritage, and homeland as its three most important values. However, it is becoming increasingly clear that each strength has been taken up by a different clique as their championing point. One of these cliques will naturally resonate more with the Kirin people than the others, I suppose. There we go. We're actually gaining stability right now. That's great. Harmony, heritage, and homeland. As the all-Kirin plenum for national revival goes on, what was originally called for reform, harmony, heritage, homeland, has become a rallying cry for the three cliques that has swiftly formed with the plenum's maturation. Premier Autumn Blaze and her supporters advocate for harmony, a platform of liberal reformism that seeks to align the realm of Kiria with the ideas and tenets of the Equestria model. Renowned Princess Winterfrost and the religious sect of the plenum believe in the Kirin heritage, seeking to remember the tradition that once made Kiria a wonderful and prosperous nation, and to remember the way of fire and the fire goddess Concord of bringing the oftentimes violent Kirin race together to a peaceful theocracy, an ideal one thought impossible 6 centuries ago. Those who have made their homeland their rallying cry and led by Fickle Current, the grandson of the business Kirin who fled the realm a century ago when the silence began, and who has now become the leading voice for the return of the Kirin diaspora and the literae, are all three have very different ideas of how to modernize the nation and shake off the vestige of the silence. And in many aspects, their ideas are compatible with each other's. As debates and deliberations drag on, one of these factors will eventually find an edge over the other competitors and win. More debates over to their delegates over to their side. The question now becomes the following: which faction is the one truly blessed by the Concord's divided favor? Premier Autumn Blade's liberal reformist, Winterfrost's conservative tradition, or the nationalists? I'm gonna go with the liberal reformism. I'm going full on with Autumn Blaze, because why not? In the Vermillion Court, the delegates of the plenum have begun to coalesce into different factions with their own ideas for how the modernization of Kiria should look. From the heterogeneous mixture of ideas and experience that our matriarch originally hoped for. But even still, the three parties that have formed at the plenum do not represent the voices of all of her subjects. I mean, of course they don't. How could they? We have a lot of subjects and a lot of opinions. In the Hall of the Matriarch Superior. Matriarch Superior Rainshine watched the delegates assemble in their seats for the day's session of the plenum with a note of concern. What has started as a heterogeneous mixture of Kirin and their ideas of the beginning of the plenum had differentiated itself into three homogeneous groups as time went on, with Kirin attaching themselves to a clique of like-minded individuals and all sitting grouped together. Discussing and mingling between the delegates had all but ceased, and now the delegates had firmly attached themselves to their preferred leader and ideas. Premier Autumnblaze and their liberal reformists, Princess Winterfrost and her traditional sect, and the business Kirin, Fickle Current, and his cabal of capitalists. Those three factions had turned the free-flowing exchange of ideas into hard-fought political debates, most of which were only resolved when two cliques ganged up on the third to enforce their compromise over the other party. Her presence as Matriarch Superior forced her delegates to take a step back and calm down when they began to get angry, lest one transform into a Neric in the presence of their matriarch. Yet even still, tempers readily flared. But even her powerful and respected presence nearly failed in controlling the assembly when the doors opened and a large procession of priests and mystics in vibrant red and gold robes entered the hall, followed by a score of poor farmers. They had barely begun to fill out a bank of empty seats before Winterfrost jumped to her hooves and spat in their direction. "Heretic!" the priestess raged, pointing a hoof directly at the fiery mare who led the procession in. "Your twisted mockery of the way of fire is not welcome before the sacred presence of our matriarch superior. Leave now, or I will drag you down the palace steps and toss you out of Vermillion myself." Winterfrost's fellow mystics joined their voices in hers, and even some of Ficklecurrent's clique and Autumnblaze's allies began to boo and hiss as the premier struggled for control. Yet none of that seemed to disturb the newcomer's leader, who simply turned about to face Rainshine directly and bowed low. "Divine Matriarch, my name is Rising Sun. My followers have traveled a long way to meet you," she said. Her voice was shrewd and sweet, and when Rainshine looked into the mayor's eyes, she saw a cunning cleverness hiding in those fiery depths. "You have called, and the Kirin of our west have entered. The Puff the Rising Fire is here to participate in the renewal of our great nation, so long as you will have us." Oh boy. Can the Rising Fire really be trusted? The Kirin of the West shall be allowed to stay. Communism, I don't like gaining communist support. I'm sorry, we cannot allow heretics a voice in Vermillion. But we'll check out that with her and continue on her second thing and more continuing on seeing more of the events here in the next episode, because for now I think this is a good time to end this one. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell button. And as always, peace.